Once upon a time, there lived a brother and a sister named Hansel and Gretel. Their mother had passed away when they were babies. They lived with their dad in a hut in the forest. Their dad was trying to earn their living by working as a woodcutter and was looking after the kids at the same time. A couple of years passed, and struggling to juggle work and two kids at the same time, their dad decided to get married again. The woodcutter's wife was from a wealthy family, and she hated the fact that they were poor and she had to live in a small ruined hut deep into the forest. Plus, she did not like her stepchildren at all. On a cold winter night, as they were getting ready for bed, Hansel and Gretel heard their stepmother talking to their dad.
How are you going to get through this winter? We don't have enough food. If you do not get rid of these kids, we will all starve to death.
Their dad opposed furiously.
No need to argue. I made up my mind. Tomorrow we'll take them to the woods and leave them there.
Hearing all that, Gretel started to cry. Her brother Hansel comforted her.
Please don't worry, Gretel. Somehow we'll find our way back home.
Later that night, Hansel snuck out and collected as many pebbles as he could in his pockets. In the morning, they all started to walk towards the forest. Their father told them that they were going for a family hike. As they were walking, without anyone noticing, Hansel dropped pebbles to mark the way back home. In the afternoon, their dad and stepmother lit a fire and told them that they will be back soon. They walked off and vanished in the woods. Of course, they did not come back. When the night fell, the horrible sounds of all the animals in the forest started to echo around them. Shivering with the horrifying sounds of the wolves, Hansel and Gretel did not leave the fireside until the moonrise. Then they started to follow the pebbles shining in the moonlight and walked towards home.
Well done, Hansel. This was very clever of you.
When the kids came back home, their dad was happy and surprised at the same time. Their stepmother also acted as she was happy. Deep inside, her decision was still the same. She was very upset that they were back. After 3 days, the stepmother tried to get rid of them again, this time at night. She locked Hansel and Gretel's door, and she did not allow Hansel to collect pebbles again. But Hansel was a clever boy. When they were walking to the forest in the morning, this time he dropped the breadcrumbs that he had put in his pocket the night before, and again made a trail the way back home. Around noon, their father and stepmother made up an excuse and went off, leaving them all alone in the forest again. Realizing that they were not coming back, Hansel and Gretel wanted to start walking back home before it got dark. But this time, they could not find the trail they left because all the breadcrumbs were eaten by the birds. Gretel started crying, and for the first time, Hansel also felt hopeless. This time, the kids were really lost With no food and scared to death, they wandered around the forest for 3 days. On the third day, they saw a bird, white as snow. The bird chirped songs with its beautiful voice for them. They forgot their hunger for a moment and started to follow the bird. The bird brought them in front of a funny-looking house. This house had walls of bread, a roof made out of cake, and windows of candy, and was covered with colorful cream all around. Hansel and Gretel could not believe their eyes. The house looked incredibly delicious. The kids forgot all about how tired they were and started to run to the house. Just as they were both going to have a bite from the house, they heard a voice from inside.
Oh! Now who is nibbling on my house?
They looked around and they saw a cute and sweet old lady. When they told her all about what had happened to them, she felt very bad for them, and so she let them in. The inside of the house was very different from the outside. It was dark, scary, and it didn't feel right. But because they were so tired and hungry, the kids did not care much. The old lady brought all kinds of food and desserts for them, and the kids ate food that they didn't had before. That night, they slept on the softest bed that they had ever seen. When they woke up in the morning, the old lady wasn't there. They started to look around. The end of the corridor, they saw a small door. When they opened the door, they found cases full of gold and treasure inside. They were very surprised, of course. Hansel wanted to take a closer look. Right at that moment, they heard her voice again.
And what do you think you are doing?